All right, so look, I ain't too sure if y'all have been wrestling fans, but back in the day, I used to be a wrestling fan. Yeah, back in the day, I actually cried. Well, I ain't gonna say cried. My eyes was a little bit sweaty. Like, yeah, my eyes was sweaty whenever I found out wrestling was fake. I would just say that. But this is Chavo Guerrero speaking on the murder suicide of Bennett. I'm not sure who this is. I believe dude's first name is Chris, but we about to hop straight into this, see what happened, see about the whole story, or at least from Guerrero's side. Let's see what he's talking about.
So what happened that last weekend? And you guys were traveling together. It was just you two at this point in time, right?
So that's true. Scott Armstrong would jump in every once in a while with us.
Right.
Kind of the three of us. And
so you'd meet at the airport for the beginning of a loop.
Yeah, I'd fly in from California. He'd fly in from Georgia, and we'd fly into wherever. Let's say we flew into, Louisiana. We'd meet, and then so one of us would get the car, and then we would travel 4 days together, and then we'd drop the car off the airport, and we'd fly our separate ways home for 2 days and right back. And that was for 8 straight months. So this one was a little different because we were close to Georgia.
Right.
So I ended up staying. We went home, and anytime a wrestler can spend the night in his own bed, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's 300-mile drive or a 500-mile drive, because we're never home in our beds. So we were able to go to his house, and I'd never seen his house. He moved away from everybody. He moved to the rural part of Atlanta, just so because he was such a loner. He's a lone wolf, and that he didn't want people to know kind of where he lived and stuff. He had a P.O. box.
Really?
Yeah, the whole deal.
Did you ever go to his house?
Yeah, so we went to his house and stayed at his house. And I remember he said, "Hey guys, I'm really private. Please don't tell anybody about my house. You know how it is with everything." I was like, "All right, cool, no problem, Chris." So we stayed there. And
You and Scott?
No, me by myself.
Okay,
yeah,
Chris, gotcha.
He and I. So we stayed there that night and got up in the morning. And he, by the time I woke up, he already had steaks and eggs ready to go for us.
That's a nice house. Like, this is like a whole nother wing of this house, and like this probably like a little hallway where it takes you from this side to this side. Like, that's hard.
Protein diet,
Yeah.
ready to go. We were going to work out, and I saw his son Daniel there, and I was the cruiserweight champ at the time, so I gave Daniel the belt. He really wanted to see the belt, so I know he went to Chris and he said, "Dad, can I?" And so Chris was like, "Ask him." Can I see your belt? And I was like, yeah, of course. So he held the belt. Okay, you're the champ. We put him on him, took pictures with him, the whole deal, and all that. So we went from there and did our loop, did our 4 days together, and then we ended up in North Carolina, Charlotte, I believe, because we ended up seeing an old friend from WCW. Remember Donna Seaman?
Yeah,
Donna
yeah.
and her sister Deb. We ended up the last night of the loop before we all getting ready to fly home. We went to go eat with them at night after the show. So we went and just ate and stuff. And I just remember Chris ordering shots, like a tequila. Yeah, we're doing a tequila shot. Every once in a while, he'd be like, he never, he'd have a couple beers and that was it. But every once in a while, he'd like, okay, let's do this. And just start drinking. Oh, all right.
Or eat a whole cheesecake. Like, he
Yeah.
never ate a sweet, and then one day he just would like eat a whole one.
Yeah.
Kinda like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
One cheesecake.
Yeah. Put the whole thing in his mouth.
Yeah.
The whole
yeah.
piece.
And then laugh. Yeah.
So, ordering shots. We're doing shots of tequila and stuff and having a good time. And then I was pretty jacked up, So we go to our own room. I go to sleep. And we got to get up in 2 hours to catch his flight. So I'm sleeping, set my alarm and everything. Well, we probably had 8 shots of tequila, a few beers. So next thing you know, I hear the door banging. Bam, 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 bam. What the heck is that? Bam, 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 bam. I'm like in a dream. What? Well, I go to it. He was like, Chavo, we got to go. I'm like, what time is it? Oh, man, I slept through my alarm. I never sleep through my alarm, ever. I slept through my alarm. I was like, oh, my, we got to catch this flight. So we jumped we didn't no shower. I just threw all the stuff in my bag, and we jumped to the car and we raced to the airport. And I ended up getting to the plane, and he made his flight. I missed my flight.
Right. Gotcha.
I missed my flight. So he made it just barely. I had to miss my flight. So I caught the next flight out an hour later. When I landed in my connection, we were in North Carolina, so he went to Atlanta, a 1 hour flight. I had to go to Texas. I think I landed in Dallas. So I get a call from him. Hey man, just checking up on you. Did you make it okay? I said, yeah, man, I'm okay. Thanks. Thanks for getting me up, man. I never sleep through my alarm. No problem, man. No problem. So I went my way. He went his way, and in 2.5 days we were going to hook up again. We were on the road again. So now it's Belmont, Texas, I believe. And
This is on like a Saturday or a Friday?
This is now Saturday morning.
Okay.
So the first one we left them probably Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Well, what was they going? They was going home just for a couple of days and then linking up for like 4 days, like to do what? Like what were they doing? They were just like best friends to the point that they linked up every week. Like what was the point of that?
Yeah.
So now it's Saturday morning early. I land in Dallas, my connection, and we always get on the phone and and coordinate what time you get in.
Yeah.
The whole deal. I'll pick you up or he'll pick me up, whatever. So, I call him, no answer. Then all of a sudden I get a call from him, and he's like, "Oh, call right back. Hey, Chavo. Hey, what's up, man?" He sounds just off. I'm like, "Man, you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm cool, man. Just really bad. A really, really just bad weekend. I just, Daniel and Nancy are sick, his wife, and."
So you're actually talking to him at this point.
I'm talking to him, yeah. And
this is basically after he's probably killed his wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're sick, they're not feeling good. And I'm like, all right, cool. And well, you coming in? Yeah, I missed my flight. But don't worry, I'm going to catch another flight and I'll be there. Okay, I go, just call me when you get in and I'll pick you up, no matter what time it is. We were landing in Houston. I had to drive to Belmont. And I was like, don't worry about it. We're late. No, I'll wait for you. Okay. So he gets off getting ready to get off the phone, and he makes a point of it stops. He goes, Chavo. I go, yeah. And he goes, I love you. I said, I love you too, man. Wasn't too off kilter because we always tell each other we love each other.
Yeah.
But this was really forced. It was not forced. It was really like made a point of it. It was like, hey man, okay, I love you, brother. Okay, no, it was like, Chavo, I love you.
I want you to understand this.
Basically, if you
don't forget this.
Coming from a man with very few words.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I love you too, bro. So I hung up, and I thought, that was strange. So I called him right back, and I go, hey man, are you all right? I'm fine, man. Like I said, I just had a real hard weekend, and just real hard weekend, and I had to go take him, Daniel and Nancy to the hospital. And I'm like, oh, okay, man. Well, I'm here. Okay, man. Okay, cool. So then hung up, and that was the last I actually talked to him. I guess he'd call Scott Armstrong, too. He and I hooked up. We hooked up, and we ended up driving, waiting for Chris. No call. I'm calling, hey, dude, did you miss your flight? Did you make your new flight? No call, no answer. Okay, well, I guess we got to drive. Well, if we got to come back, we said if we got to come back and go pick him up, we will. So we went to the show, and the agents were asking, "Where's Chris?
This is a house show.
Right. House show. Where's Chris? Next day was a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
In Houston. Well, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. He missed his flight. He's gonna. Okay. So we drive to Houston the next day. Me and Scotty, and
still no word.
Still no from Chris. We're calling him. Okay, nothing. I get some texts on my phone at probably 5 a.m. And I get text from Chris.
So you wake up in the morning, you've got
not even before. It woke me up before
the
5 in the morning. So I look at the my text and I'm like, that's weird. It says the dogs are in the enclosed pool area. The garage door is open. I looked at it. I was like, well, that's weird. Is this one of those texts you get? Sometimes you get texts, from 3 days ago you never delivered, and then all of a sudden you got a text. And this was kind of the start of texting. Now it's a little different.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 2007.
A lot of times, texts didn't come through and they got lost, and all of a sudden you got them. And I was like, well,
You get half a text.
Half a text, yeah, that was weird. So okay, I wrote it off. Then I get another text from Nancy's phone, from his wife's phone, and it said the same thing. The same text. That's really weird. Okay, whatever. I kind of wrote it off. So then I had to get up in 2 hours. So I got up. I look at, I go downstairs to meet Scotty Armstrong, and I look at him. I go, did you get anything weird last night happen? And he goes, yeah, I got some weird text from Chris. I said, me too. Did it say this? He goes, yeah. So we call Chris. No answer. That's weird. So we go to the pay-per-view. Chris isn't showing up. And they're asking us, where's he at? I'm not sure. We're not sure where he's at. Now we're covering for him. We think maybe,
blatantly lying for him now.
Yeah. We're blatant, whatever. We're just covering from him. No, I haven't heard from him. I don't know what's going on. Okay, great. Didn't tell us anything about the text, nothing.
Did you feel something was going on weird at this point?
Something was going on. And I remember Arn Anderson saying, this is later on in the day, because he was supposed to wrestle the pay-per-view.
He was supposed to wrestle for the title.
The ECW championship against CM Punk. He was supposed to wrestle him, and this is a big match.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Arn Anderson saying, you know what? If Benoit didn't show up with no word, he's either has just taken off to like Alaska and he's going to be like a merchant marine or something, or he's dead basically. That's and I remember him saying that, not meaning it is he's dead.
Chris Benoit.
But there's something going on for him not to show up.
And either option being just as viable, because I could see him just going off to become a merchant marine and saying,
and being gone. Yeah, and being gone. Basically the ending of Dexter, right? And then so I didn't say anything. We didn't say anything. The next day, we're in Corpus Christi for a super show, another super show, and those damn super shows, man. Handle this guy.
Yeah. But you still didn't know anything.
We still didn't know. We've been calling. So finally, I go to Johnny Ace. I go, Johnny. Johnny was the head of talent relations.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Johnny. This is my phone. This is what I got yesterday. And he's like, with his Johnny voice, Chavo, hey, what are you talking about? Why didn't you show me this yesterday? I said, Johnny, we're trying to cover for him.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest with you, I didn't know what was going on. We're covering for him. He's like, all right, let me get on the phone. So I guess they called the Atlanta police or whatever, and I don't know anything about it. That's the last thing I heard. And then all of a sudden, about an hour later, they do a big old meeting at the ring with all the wrestlers, and then they did this periodically, to talk about,
Yeah, they would have like a team meeting.
Yeah, where the company's going, or Vince had to say something big, So
yeah.
We go to the meeting. We're sitting there, and I look at Ric Flair, and Ric Flair's crying, and I go, Rick, what's going on? And he goes, they're gone. I said, what do you mean they're gone? And this is before anybody knew anything. And he goes, Daniel, Nancy, and Chris. And I said, what do you mean they're gone? And I had to hear it from his mouth. I couldn't hear that. He said, they're gone. What do you mean they're gone? He goes, they're dead. It's just now, right now, my heart just dropped again.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt. I was like,
wow, that just gave me the goosebumps. That's sad as fuck, bro.
And Vince hadn't announced it to everybody yet. And I'm sitting there next to everybody, and I just put my head down and was like, what? Well, are you kidding me? This is 2 years or a year and a half after Eddie died?
Yeah.
I had another friend. This happened to another friend of mine. I was like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, man, then all of a sudden Vince announces it to people and saying, we don't know the circumstances at this time. All we know is that there's been a death, and Chris Benoit is no longer with us, and his son and his wife are no longer with us either.
To kill your wife and son, too, is crazy. I got to look into this and see why he would even do that. What was the driving force to hurt your family, though?
We don't know the circumstances. We don't know what's going on. So we're making a tribute show to Chris. I pulled Vince. I freaking grabbed him in the back and was like, "What happened? What happened?" And he just hugged me, and I'm crying on Vince McMahon's shoulder, and I'm like, "No, not again. I'm crying on it. He's hugging me like a child. I mean, he's hugging me like really tight, And I was like, "What the heck? You serious?"
Yeah, it was interesting because I'd been talking to Brian Gewirtz. Right. And he called me earlier in the day and said, I got to tell you something you're going to love. Because what I found out afterwards that Bruce Campbell was originally going to be on the show, because that show was a funeral for Vince, who had just been blown up.
That's right.
And they had Bruce Campbell, who's, from Evil Dead and, the actor, and I'm a big fan. He's got something I got to tell you. He left a message.
Yeah.
So I went to the gym. I worked out with my son, Ash.
Yeah.
Got back in the car, called him back, and he's like, total change. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? What do you got to tell me? And he's like, you're not going to want to hear this. And I was thinking, like,
you just told me to call you back, right?
Yeah. He goes, this is horrible. And I was thinking, because he said earlier, I got to tell you something about Vince.
Right.
And when I talked to him, I thought he was going to say that Vince is going to go on the air and like bury me or something. This is horrible. I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he said the same thing. He's gone. Who's gone? Chris. I'm like,
where'd he go?
Chris who? Like,
yeah.
Which Chris are you talking about?
Right.
Benoit and Nancy and Daniel. Same thing with me, huge whale. I remember my son, I'll never forget it. He goes, Daddy, you cry funny, because I had to pull over on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And it was like you said, he just like, all three of them?
Right.
And like, what did they have, carbon monoxide poisoning? Did they have food poisoning?
At the point in time, nobody knew anything. There was no details.
What were the boys saying? Were the speculation? What was it?
There was nothing. We didn't know it. We're like, what do you mean he's gone? What happened? We don't know. He's gone. We didn't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then when you actually did find out what had happened, it was still to this day we still don't know what happened, and there's really
still don't know what happened. And then once you actually found out what really happened, that the details behind it with Nancy being killed, him killing her, and killing his son, and then hanging himself, we're like, that's not the guy we knew. That's just not the guy in you.
Yeah, and then there's so many, like we said, we'll never know for sure. I still think that it's the concussion thing.
Sure.
The
Definitely could have
hardening of the brain.
I was about to say, like, he had to have some type of brain trauma. I don't want to say steroid use because I don't know the effects of steroids, but just the general public thinks that, steroids make you have anger issues or this and that. But the take out your wife and your son is beyond wild. Like, even what did you? All right, so just say you did snap, lose it, black out, and kill your wife. What did the baby have to do with it?
Brain.
Absolutely.
I'm actually going to have Chris Nowinski on to talk to him about it.
He's great.
He actually studied Benoit's brain.
He helped me when I had my big concussion because the doctors didn't know anything.
Yeah.
They're just like, there was no protocol. It was not like when I tore my bicep, they were like, hey, you're in a sling for 4 months. And
Right.
No, it was like, I go, when can I go back to work? Well, when you feel better. Well, Chris calls me and Nowinski calls me and really, really,
I think, like you said, I think it was maybe one of the first times this had ever happened. And now, with all the research that's been done, if there was symptoms or signs, you would know about it. But back in 2007, I think Chris's case might have been the very first. Hey, we'll never know for sure, but it gives me some kind of closure that I can at least believe that my friend just didn't go completely insane for no reason.
Sure.
At least that gives me a reason.
I know.
And
I feel your pain.
And it could have just been easily one of us with all the amount of pain we've done and all the damage we've had, et cetera, et cetera.
I ain't going. You can study the man's brain all you want. I could see concussions making you depressed or maybe even making you maybe hurt your own self or just lose it. But how does it make you kill your baby boy? I just don't really understand that. That was a good insight. I never knew what happened to Chris Benoit. Definitely didn't know that. Chavo and them being that they was with him for a few days every week. I know that hit them pretty hard. And I'm super sorry to hear that, for real, for real. Long live his wife and his son, man. I'm actually lost for words. Let me know what y'all think about that in the comments. I'm about to get up out of here, man. GoHamm TV.